Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. It's 8 o'clock. So while we wait for Maharaj to join us, we'll just do a small kirtan. Tanavika Prabhu, do you mind being being my responder, please?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Damine.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastachadeshatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharini Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Desattarini.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Anya
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay, so it looks like His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj has joined us. So Maharaj, you don't need an introduction, so please take it away.
And disappeared. Well, they're there. It's small. Mhm. Hare Krishna. Abhishek or Nitai Gaur Sundar Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj.
Shall we begin?
Yes, Maharaj.
I will start by singing the Mangalacharna prayers and leading a short kirtan, and then we will speak about the glories of the holy name. In the meantime, I wish the devotees on Zoom, as far as possible, put on their cameras so we can see their moon-like faces. It will be a more personal experience. Sunday. Vitam Sajivam Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripraja Acharya Srotas Stasi Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripraja Acharya Srotas Stasi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namach Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh, Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Again, as far as possible, please put on your cameras so we can see your moon-like faces, and it is a more personal experience. Today, we shall be speaking about the glories of the holy name. And specifically, I will be reading and discussing some verses from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with the story of Ajamil. We'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2. Ajamil delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. Text 9 and 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Stena Sarapam Mitradru Brahmaha Guru Talpaga Sri Raja Pitrigohanta Yecha Patang Kino Pare Sarvesham Apyagavatam Idam Eva Suniskritam Nama Viharanam Vishnor Yatastad Vishayamati. Translation. The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a Brahmin, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. text 11. Nanis Kritar Udaya Brahma Vadibis Tata Vishuddhyat Jagavam Vritadibi Yata Harer Nama Padarudaratais Tadu Tamashloka Guna Palambakam. By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service, unlike the chanting of the Lord's names, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the chanting of the holy name of the Lord has special significance that distinguishes it from the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of atonement for severe, more severe, or most severe actions. There are 20 types of religious scriptures called Dharma Shastras, beginning with the Manu Samhita and Parasara Samhita. But herein it is stressed that although one may become free from the reactions of the most sinful activities by following the religious principles of these scriptures, this cannot promote a sinful man to the stage of loving service to the Lord. On the other hand, chanting the holy name of the Lord even once not only frees one immediately from the reactions of the greatest sins, but also raises one to the platform of rendering loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described as Uttama Shloka, because he is famous for his glorious activities. Thus one serves the Lord by remembering his form, his attributes, and his pastimes. So at the end of the previous canto, the 5th canto, Shukadeva Goswami explained the hellish punishments that awaited sinful persons. And Maharaj Parikshit, being a compassionate Vaishnav, felt concern for them. And he inquired about the means of atonement by which such sinful persons could become free from sinful reactions. Srila Shukadeva Goswami explained some of the methods of atonement, and Maharaj Parikshit very intelligently questioned that these methods of atonement may free one from sinful reactions, but they do not free one from the desire to engage in sinful activities. And therefore, after performing the ritual for atonement, one may again engage in the same kinds of sinful activities. And he compared such a process to hati snan, the bathing of an elephant. An elephant will take bath in a body of water and clean himself very nicely. But then the elephant will come out and and roll in the dirt, cover himself with dirt all over again. Hati Snan, the bathing of an elephant. So Maharaj Parikshit expressed his concern that by these methods of atonement, one can be free from the sinful reactions, but one is not freed from the desire to engage in sinful activities. And thus, the discussion led to the history of Ajamil and the power of the holy name to not only free one from sinful reactions, but to free one from the desire to engage in sinful activities and to elevate one to the platform of devotional service. And as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can engage in devotional service only if one is free from sinful activities. Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. One can engage in devotional service only when one is freed from sinful reactions and has performed pious activities. So now we come back to the purport to text 11. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord even once not only frees one immediately from the reactions of the greatest sins, but also raises one to the platform of rendering loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described as Uttama Shloka because he is famous for his glorious activities. Thus, one serves the Lord by remembering his form, his attributes, and his pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is all possible simply by chanting the Lord's holy name because of the Lord's omnipotence. So the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Yes, that's a very important verse. And I'll read the whole thing. Yes. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Vinatvam Nama Namina. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of its being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. So, abhinatvam nama namino. That means that the holy name and the person who has the name are not different. And therefore, the holy name has all of the powers of Krishna himself because abhinatvam nama namino. The holy name of Krishna and the person who is named by the holy name are not different. So now coming back to the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is all possible simply by chanting the Lord's holy name because of the Lord's omnipotence. Means that one can be completely freed from sinful reactions. What cannot be achieved through the performance of Vedic rituals can be easily achieved through the chanting of the Lord's holy name. To chant the holy name and dance in ecstasy is so easy and sublime that one can achieve all the benefits of spiritual life simply by following this process. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. The Sankirtan movement we have started offers the best process for becoming purified of all sinful reactions and coming immediately to the platform of spiritual life. And now I will come to text 13. Of course, text 12 is also very important, but for the sake of time, we will skip ahead to text 13. Atainam apanayata krita shesha ganiskritam sadaso bhagavan nama mriyamana samagrahit. Ata, therefore, enam, him, Ajamil, ma, do not, apanayata, try to take, krita, already done, ashesha, unlimited, aga niskritam, atonement for his sinful actions. Yat, because, asau, he, Bhagavat Nama, the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mriyamana, while dying, samagrahit, perfectly chanted. Translation. At the time of death, this Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayan. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamaraj, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions. So the background, many of you know, but in case some of you are not aware, the background is that Ajamil was born in a good Brahmin family, But later he became attached to a prostitute, and he married the prostitute, and for the sake of the prostitute, he engaged in all sorts of sinful activities. And he had a number of children, and the youngest child was a son whom he named Narayan. And at the time of death, Ajamil was in a distressed condition, and he called for his son, who was playing nearby, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. He didn't intend to call upon the Supreme Lord Narayan. He was calling for his young son, Narayan. So at that moment, the time of death, Riyamanaha, the Yamadutas came. That means the agents of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, who punishes the sinful. So the Yamadutas came to take the soul of Ajamil to their master, Yamaraj, to be punished for his sinful activities. But at the same time, the Vishnu Dutas came, the messengers of Lord Vishnu, because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayan. And therefore, he was freed from all sinful reactions. He was freed from hellish punishment. And there ensued a discussion between the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas about who had jurisdiction over Ajamil. The Yamadutas argued that they had jurisdiction over him because he was so sinful. But the Vishnu Dutas argued that they had jurisdiction over him because he had chanted the holy name of Narayan at the time of death. And therefore he was freed from all sinful reactions. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that at the last moment, when Ajamil chanted Narayan, indicating his young son Narayan, he remembered the original Narayan, whom he had worshipped as a youth, as a good Brahmin boy. So the context of this present verse is that. So I'll read the translation again, so you can relate to it in its context. This is the Vishnu Duta speaking. At the time of death, this Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord Narayan. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamaraj, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Vishnu Dutas, who are superior authorities, gave orders to the Yamadutas, who did not know that Ajamil was no longer subject to tribulation in hellish life for his past sins. Although he had chanted the holy name Narayan to indicate his son, the holy name is so transcendently powerful that he was automatically freed because he had chanted the holy name while dying. Ante Narayana Smriti. That Ante Narayana Smriti is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam saying that the goal of life is to remember Narayan at the time of death. And there's also a Bengali saying, bhajan karo, sadhan karo, basically that whatever bhajan you have done, whatever sadhan you have done is well and good, but it will be tested at the time of death. So that's the real test, life's final exam, whether we can remember Narayan at the time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti. As Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita 7:28, Yesham Twantagatam Papam Jananam Punyakarmanam Te Dvandva Mohanir Mukta Bhajante Mam Dridavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, and who are freed from the duality of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. Unless one is freed from all sinful reactions, one cannot be promoted to the platform of devotional service. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 8:5, it is stated, Anta kale chamam eva smaram mukva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yatinastya trasamshayam. If one remembers Krishna, Narayan, at the time of death, one is certainly eligible to return immediately home back to Godhead. And that Bhagavad Gita 8:5, I'll just read that. Anta kale chamameva smaran mukva kalevaram ya prayati sadbhavam yatinastya samshaya. And whoever, at the end of his life, quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So, my dear devotees, we are members of the Hare Krishna movement, and our business is to chant Hare Krishna as much as possible. And the chanting of Hare Krishna is so powerful, as we have been reading and discussing. It can free one from all sinful reactions, save one from hellish punishment, and elevate one to the platform of devotional service, from which one can make further progress and go back home, back to Godhead. And that is exactly what happened to Ajamil. After the Vishnu Dutas intervened and saved him from being taken by the Yamadutas to the court of Yamaraj to be punished, Ajamil did not die. And being given a second chance, he went to the holy place of Haridwar, and he engaged in devotional service. And he progressed from the stage of chanting Namabas to the stage of pure chanting. There are three stages in chanting. Nam aparad, that means offensive chanting, and Nam abas, that means offenseless chanting, or the clearing stage of chanting. And then there's Shuddhanam, the stage of pure chanting. So when Ajamil chanted the holy name of Narayan at the time of death, he was chanting in Namabas. To commit sins on the strength of chanting is an offense. In other words, knowing that by chanting the holy name, one can be freed from sinful reactions. If one deliberately engages in sinful activities, thinking that he'll be freed from the reactions by chanting, that is an offense. Baladyasya papa buddhi, committing sin on the strength of chanting, that is offensive. But Ajamil was not offensive. He didn't commit sins with the idea that he could neutralize the effects by chanting. But he was just chanting helplessly, calling for his son, Narayan. And so after his life was spared, he went to Haridwar, engaged in devotional service, brought his chanting to the stage of pure chanting. And then the Vishnu Dutas, whom he had seen on his deathbed, came again to take him back home, back to Godhead. And that's how he achieved ultimate perfection. So, my dear devotees, we should take every opportunity to chant the holy names, and purify our hearts, Cheto Darpano Marjanam, and not waste time. In one talk in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada said, if you've got time, chant Hare Krishna. Don't waste time. Don't speak nonsense. Chant Hare Krishna. So we should do that. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. And now, if any of you have any questions or comments, any reflections, you can raise your hands and we will discuss further. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Kartiki? Not, yes, yes.
Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Guru Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class, first of all. Guru Maharaj, you mentioned in the class, giving reference to 7.28 Bhagavad Gita, where you mentioned that one can engage in devotional service only when one is freed from sinful reactions. Could you enlighten more us on that, Guru Maharaj?
Yes. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayisyami Asuchaha. That if you surrender to Krishna, Krishna will free you from all sinful reactions. And one engages in devotional service after one surrenders to Krishna. One surrenders to Krishna, becomes freed from sinful reactions, and then engages in devotional service. And by chanting the holy name, one also is freed from sinful reactions. So, yeah, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of the holy name, we become free from sinful reactions and thus become eligible to engage in devotional service. Priya Trupati.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Greetings from Mysore, South India. Please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
My question, Maharaj, is when Ajamila was dying, he said Narayana, he called out to his son. And well, I like to believe this version that he said Narayana, and that's it. He didn't think of anyone. If he thought of anyone, it was his son. I like to believe that version. And then Srila Prabhupada has said in his lecture that he thought of actual Narayana. So did he think of actual Narayana or did he not think of Narayana? Because it seems like the Bhagavatam explanation seems to say from the purports that he didn't think of Narayana, the Lord.
Yeah, but we have to understand the Shastra with the help of the Acharyas. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said the same thing, that when he chanted the name Narayana, indicating his son, he remembered the original Narayana, whom he had worshipped in his youth.
Okay. That's his version. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so the next question, I have two questions, and the other question, this is regarding Jad Bharat's story. Bharat Maharaj, who became a deer and then became Jad Bharat. So Bharat Maharaj was attached to the deer and he got the deer body. But then at the end of the deer's life, there's a very clear verse that he jumped into the water to give up that deer's body, but he clearly uttered a verse which translates as, "Oh Hari, please engage me in your service." And he had clear remembrance of the Lord when he gave up the dear body. So according, you were quoting those Bhagavad Gita verses, and we know Bhagavad Gita says how whatever you think of, that's the state you will attain. So I mean, it's just a classic question: why the deer didn't go back to Godhead? Because he thought of Hari.
True. But a devotee, pure devotee, does not want to go back to Godhead per se. Pure devotee wants to serve Krishna. And in his birth as Jad Bharat, he was able to do very valuable service to Krishna. So yes, Srila Prabhupada has explained the mentality of devotees under the influence of different modes. And a devotee under the influence of the mode of ignorance thinks, I'm the only devotee here. Everyone else is nonsense. A devotee under the influence of the mode of passion thinks, I want to be the best devotee. I want to be known as being the best devotee. A devotee under the influence of the mode of goodness thinks, I want to go back home, back to Godhead. And a devotee who is transcendental thinks, I just want to serve Krishna. I just want to make Krishna happy. So by taking birth as Jad Bharat, he he did wonderful service. And Krishna was pleased.
So, I mean, sorry to put this argument again, but looking from the viewpoint of that particular verse, if we had to say whether, well, this applies to everyone or not, please help me to understand that. It seems like the devotees has a choice. Do you want to go back to Godhead? Do you want to come back and preach or something like that?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, Ayushi.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, I have a question. Like when a person, when a devotee departs, then at the time of his death, it is said that this ear is very active, not, I mean, in comparison to other senses, it is more active. And that's why devotees do loud kirtan, so that the soul can, this devotee can hear the transcendental vibrations. So what if Guru Maharaj, the devotee doesn't have that kind of arrangement where other devotees are there to do the loud kirtans? So will Krishna help this devotee, you know, will Krishna help this devotee also remember him at the time of death?
Yes. Yes, one may not be well, yeah, one may not know that one is approaching the time of death. Or even if one knows that one is approaching the time of death, one may not have devotees there to chant the holy names. But still, as it is said in one scripture, you know, if due to various circumstances, this is the Lord speaking, if due to various circumstances, my devotee cannot remember me at the time of death, I will remember my devotee. And yes, once Tamal Krishna Goswami asked Srila Prabhupada, I'm so busy serving you, you know, what if the time of death comes and I'm just engaged in my service to you, and I won't be able to think of Krishna? And Srila Prabhupada replied that Lord Chaitanya will forcibly enter your mind at the time of death. Sorry.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prema Manjari.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, my question is that in Bhagavad Gita, in verse 3.42, Krishna says that the working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So, so my question is that when we are chanting and we are engaging our intelligence and we understand that this is the highest, process that we are, following of chanting, and we are using the intelligence. Also, the senses are almost in control. That we sit in one place, we chant, but the mind is not in control, because that's the most difficult part, to engage the mind in hearing the holy name. But my question is that why do we emphasize so much importance to the mind when it is inferior to the intelligence? So just by using the intelligence and controlling the senses, still why is the chanting offensive since the mind is not attentive?
Can you repeat the question briefly?
So my question is that since the intelligence is higher than the mind, so
Yes.
then why is the emphasis more on the control of mind? And Krishna also is asking us to, surrender, like says man mana bhav mad bhakto, like the mind is getting more, like we are more in the mind, trying to give more importance to the mind, whereas the intelligence is supposed to be higher.
Well, we control the mind with the intelligence. Controlling the mind means that we're using the intelligence to control the mind. So even if it doesn't always say to use your intelligence to control the mind, but controlling the mind means using your intelligence to control the mind. Because, as you rightly said, the intelligence is higher than the mind. And so we need a higher force to control the lower force. And so we use the intelligence to control the mind.
And how do we do that, Guru Maharaj? Because while chanting also I've heard about Srila Prabhupada says that mind is, you just have to hear, the mind is not of any importance. So the intelligence, is trying to hear, but the mind is obstructing. So that.
Well, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whenever and wherever the mind wanders, you have to bring it back to the self. And that's the intelligence that brings the mind back to the sound of the holy name. There's so many good books to help us with japa. Purijan Prabhu's book called Japa. His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj has written many good books about japa, including one which draws from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Harinam Chintamani. So, yeah, we have to chant with attention. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that if we chant attentively, all the other offenses will be eradicated. And if we're inattentive while chanting, all the other offenses will flourish. So the main thing is to chant with attention. And, as far as possible, get up early, chant during Brahma Muhurta, chant in front of the deities, chant in front of Tulsi, chant with other serious chanters. Yeah, it's a very important practice. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. It's only by your blessings that we can, even try our best.
I'll pray for you. Hemlata?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Thank you for such a wonderful class, Maharaj. Emphasizing the glories of holy name that are unlimited. And what a benediction we all have in the form of the holy name. What a savior. So thank you, Maharaj. I have one question. Among the 10 offenses, Maharaj, one of the offenses to the holy name is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Now, when we hear, so sometimes we get personal association of spiritual master and we get personal instructions from spiritual master that we are supposed to fulfill and try to fulfill. We can never really fulfill. And then there are always, when we hear lectures, then there are general instructions in those lectures as well, right? But we are not always able to fulfill all those instructions, right? So because we are still not, perfect. So does that mean that if I'm unable to fulfill the instructions of the spiritual master, that it is disobedience and that is an offense to the holy name?
No. I mean, the third offense, Gurura Bhagya, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master, refers to deliberately disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. Once I asked Srila Prabhupada that question in Mayapur during his conversations with Bob Cohen, which became the book Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. So I asked Srila Prabhupada, about disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. And he said, why disobey the orders of the spiritual master? I said, well, like the spiritual master tells us to chant attentively, but sometimes we can't. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, well, that is not an offense. You're trying. So that is not an offense.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Nitai Gaur Sundar Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj, for last comment about not chanting attentively is not an offense to Guru. So, not a deliberate offense.
Yeah.
So my question was translation of verse 13. Here the Prabhupada translate, at the time of death, this Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayan. But in transliteration, word by word, there is no mention of the loud chanting. So what Prabhupada is giving some message to us by this loud chanting.
Well, definitely he chanted loudly because he was faced with death. He was panicking, and his only hope in his mind was his son Narayan. And so in a very helpless condition, he chanted loudly. But it's true that it's not mentioned in the verse as such, but Srila Prabhupada has explained that there are different types of translations. One is completely literal, and one includes a bit of a purport within the translation. And so some of Srila Prabhupada's translations include a bit of a purport within the translation. And definitely he chanted loudly, even though it's not mentioned in the verse, but Prabhupada put it in the translation for our benefit.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Rasastali Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. I wanted to find out this pastime of Ajamil, where Ajamil chants the name of the Lord, and it's explained that the holy name is so merciful, And also we can see even in Shikshastakam, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that there are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. So yesterday also in Shri Prahlad Prabhu's Srimad Bhagavatam class, he mentioned this pastime of Ajamil. And I was thinking that as devotees, we kind of tend to punish ourselves in our sadhana. We so hard on ourselves because japa is always a struggle, and one has to always try to purify one's japa always, but we tend to punish ourselves so much. Why do devotees do that? Because the holy name is so merciful, and there's so much benefit, but we still, we hard on ourselves. So I don't know why do devotees do that? That they they keep actually like crucifying themselves in their path of devotional service.
Well, I don't know if it's true of all devotees, but let's take you, for example. You're hard on yourself because you're not able to chant attentively. Is that the idea?
Yes, Gurmaj, definitely. I struggle to do it every day, or nicely, attentively. Like I'm distracted with my son, and then I tend to stray away because I feel, oh, I just can't manage, and then I realize, no, you have to come back. You have to make that time. You have to fight for that time. So but the holy name is so purifying. Sometimes we can't sit with our japa beads and just do that full 2 hours straight of chanting. So in between doing so much of work, and then I've seen that also at so many moms, then they just give up completely. So and we have to, as a mother also, you keep struggling, you keep going back and saying, no, you need to get back on track, you need to. And we don't realize the mercy of the holy name in itself, that it's so purifying. So we tend to be hard on ourselves. I for myself also feel that I all the time, feel that I'm not good enough, and then I just give up. And then I have to like tame the mind and say, come back again, get back on track. And then but I feel like there's this need to help devotees also to to understand that it just continue. I mean, there's this famous saying, you rather struggle every day in your japa than 33 million species to come back again. So yeah, I think we tend to be a little bit hard on ourselves.
Well, on the practical side, I mean, I've heard similar stories, and on a practical side, if your husband can look after your son for some time so that you can chant without being distracted by your son. Yeah, there should be, I think, some give and take when it comes to the children, so that both parents have an opportunity to chant without being distracted. And yeah, we have to persevere. We have to keep going. We have to, yeah. And I think of what Tamal Krishna Goswami said, that the worst round that you chant is better than the best round that you don't chant. So somehow or other, we should just chant, even if it's not the best. We can try to improve. But chanting itself is of great benefit. And yeah, Tamal Krishna Goswami was quite strict with his disciples who were new mothers, that even though they had so many distractions in taking care of their infants, but still they should chant their rounds.
Thank you, Gurmaj. That's very, very practical examples to follow. And I like what Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj said, to rather do the round and yes. And I meant to say 8.4 million species of life here. Sure. No, definitely. We should keep endeavoring.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good. Hare Krishna. Malati Dasi.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your divine grace. Guru Maharaj, we don't know how the death is going to come to us, in what way. I want to know that one quality that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was told by Srila Prabhupada, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would force himself into your mind or heart. So what is that one quality which would attract Gauranga to enter at the last moment of our time, when we are leaving the body and we are not perfect as it is? We are just trying to put our efforts. It's a sure gamble that we don't know what is going to happen. So what that one quality would attract Gauranga at the time of death?
Well, in the case of Tamal Krishna Goswami, it was a constant engagement in Srila Prabhupada's service. That was the context of the question, that I'm so busy engaged in your service, what if death comes and I'm not able to think of Krishna at the time of death because I'm so busy engaged in your service? And then Srila Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya will forcibly enter your mind. So yeah, we should always be engaged in service to Guru and Gauranga.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we can end with Vaishnava Pranam. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Panchakalpa Truviyascha Krititana Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Maharaj.
your mercy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your association, Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru
Guru
Maharaj.
Maharaj for the association. All glories to His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj.
Jai. Jai.
Jai.